Hey everybody, it's Katie. Today I want to talk about nursing pitfalls. Pregnant mamas, do you want to nurse your baby when it arrives and you're not really sure how that's going to happen or how that's going to look? Today I want to talk about some of the top nursing pitfalls and how to avoid them and successfully continue on with your nursing relationship. So you're about to have this baby and you're thinking, I got these, right? So it should be easy. I should just be able to get the baby and plug the baby in and we should be good, right? Sometimes it's not quite as easy as you think it should be. Insert baby, plug in. Doesn't always work that way. And unfortunately, it typically can be a rough start. Nursing is amazing, and once you've got the relationship established and you've worked through some of these bumps, it's incredible, and there's not much that can get in the way of it. However, in the early months and in the early weeks when you have no energy and you are feeling like you got run over by a truck, that's when it's the most challenging. So here are some of the most common issues and how to avoid them. First and foremost, assuming you can't do it. I have heard a lot of mamas say, I hope to breastfeed, or I want to, or I plan to. And that's what I said, I plan on breastfeeding, or I hope to breastfeed. But I feel like there's value in telling yourself, I will breastfeed. Because if we assume that there's, if we put in room for failure, then it's like, okay, then it's there. So assuming you can't do it, that's probably the very first issue. And you're thinking, okay, well, are these really going to produce enough milk to feed this baby? Or maybe you have flat or inverted nipples and you're thinking, this isn't going to work because how does this happen? Rest assured, there are ways around it. So it doesn't matter what size cup you have before you get pregnant or while you're pregnant, whether you have an A cup or a double D cup, you will produce enough milk to feed your baby. So don't worry about that. Your body knows what's going on. Your body knows what to do. So don't worry about cup size. That's not an issue. Flat or inverted nipples. I actually have a very sweet friend who had inverted nipples, and she made the determination, I'm going to do this. And with the help of lactation consultant and support from her friends and from her spouse, they actually worked with the baby and her sweet little baby, so patient, but her nipples are no longer inverted because the baby basically worked them out. And another thing that I have heard, though I haven't personally witnessed, is if you pump immediately after birth, it can help draw the nipples out. So those are some positives there. And then last but not least, if those things don't work, there are things called nipple shields. And you can go to a lactation consultant. They can help you with this. They can talk you through it. But nipple shields also work as well and can help draw the nipple out, and it gives the baby something to latch onto. Another booby blunder is giving into bad advice. You're going to be surrounded by a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to have a lot of different ideas on how you should parent your child and mother your child, and probably some of them are going to have opinions on how you feed your child. There's a fine line in walking and taking advice and listening to people, but if you have made the determination that you're going to breastfeed, any advice that's counter to that, such as, are you nursing that baby again? Oh my gosh. Or, why are you sure that baby's getting enough to eat? Boy, she looks starving. That's bad advice. That's not helpful to a brand new mom who's sitting here already wondering, like, is this working? Am I feeding my baby enough? Am I feeding her too much? That's not helpful. So those types of situations and scenarios and people, if you can, avoid that. Better yet, the people who are going to be around you, your postpartum posse, those who are going to be in your circle, educate them. Help them understand breastfeeding. And when you find a really great article about breastfeeding, send it to them and have them take a look at it. Or your spouse or your mom or whoever's going to be with you, take them with you to the lactation consultant. Because the more you all know, the better. And then that way they can be on board with good advice and things that are helpful to say and not things that are not helpful to hear. Now, this next one might make me your favorite person today or not. This one might not be very popular, but this is just coming from my own personal advice. And that is, don't be in a rush to give up those night feedings in the early months. And don't be in a rush to get on a schedule. Now I'm talking about the early months. We're talking about the first 3-4 months, but don't be in a rush for that, because your body is acclimating. Your body's figuring out how much it needs to feed the baby and to promote weight gain and all that. And if you fiddle with that, then you're risking fiddling with your milk supply. Now, you'll get to the point where if you skip a feeding or if you skip a nursing session, it won't be the end of the world. That's later on. So don't forget, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm just saying, in the early months, don't be in a rush for that type of thing. Now, if your partner wants to be helpful or wants to help you in the middle of the night with this kind of thing, I would suggest some sort of compromise, which would look something like 3 a.m, baby cries. Okay, Dad, hop up, go get the baby. Even if the baby's just on the other side of the bed, hop up, go get the baby. Make sure the diaper's changed and cleaned and everything's set, that the bed's all set up, and get the baby. Hand the baby to mom, and then you take care of the nursing session. And then when you're done with the nursing session, you give baby back to daddy. Daddy gets to burp and put the baby back to bed. So literally all you're doing is attaching the baby and feeding, and then the dad gets to handle, or whoever gets to handle, the rest of it. That's a pretty good compromise, I would say, because then you're not having to fiddle with everything, and it'll be easier for you to go back to sleep. One of the things that we did that worked really well for us is we co-slept, meaning the baby slept in bed with us. Now, I understand that's not for everybody, totally okay, but there are ways to have baby close to you, which is probably the best option at this point when you're establishing a nursing relationship. We had an arm's reach co-sleeper which attached to our bed. So the baby was, well, she was supposed to be. She didn't listen, she didn't get the memo. But anyway, she was able to sleep. When she got a little older, she slept in this little co-sleeper that was attached to the bed. So all I had to do was roll over and get the baby and feed her, and when we were done, we put her right back. So that's another option in this, is to have the baby really close to you. We also did a video on co-sleeping if you're interested in checking that out. Now lastly on that, if you need to do a schedule, like for example, if you have to go back to work, if you need to do a schedule, put that off as long as you can. I understand that sometimes it has to happen, but put it off as long as possible as far as the first few months, so you have time for your body to well establish a milk supply and a nursing relationship. The last Boobie blunder that I would like to share is not having the support and or tools that you need when trouble arises. Now, if you're having your baby in a hospital, a lot of times there will be a lactation consultant who will visit you, and you will be completely overwhelmed and exhausted, and you'll kind of smile and nod as your baby is peacefully, probably suckling, because early on you just attach them and they just, they suckle and they get the colostrum, and you're thinking, okay, I'm tired. Baby seems fine. I don't want to listen to all this right now. What I would suggest for you to do is, when that lactation consultant comes to visit, get their information and find out when you can come and see them, or is there an office that you can come to a week after or so, and then do it. Make the appointment before you leave the hospital. Make an appointment to visit a lactation consultant about a week after, week and a half after, because by that time your milk will have come in, and then you'll have a little bit better idea of what this whole breastfeeding thing is going to look like. Now, if you go through like a birth center or you have a midwife, ask them what it looks like on their side, as far as can they come back to you, can you go see them. But even if you're thinking, oh, I don't want to fiddle with it, just fiddle with it. Go see the lactation consultant, because they are going to be able to answer a lot of questions. If there's any sort of latch issue, they're going to be able to help you address that immediately, because part of the problem with nursing early on is if the baby has a bad latch, it's going to hurt, and you're not going to want to keep doing it. So just be proactive. Schedule the appointment with the lactation consultant, or figure out where they're located, get all their information, and be prepared just to go see them. Also, as I mentioned a little earlier, make sure the people that are in your circle are educated. Take them with you. Involve them in the process and help them understand that this is a really important thing for you, and ask for their support. Because having the support from the people who you love and trust the most, and they're encouraging you and giving you options when you feel like giving up, that could mean the difference between a successful nursing relationship and not having one. Another thing is have a pediatrician who supports your desire to breastfeed. Now, most pediatricians, at least the ones that I've seen, they don't get too much into the whole lactation breastfeeding thing. If you interview a pediatrician early on, tell them your desire and make sure that they are on board and that they feel like it's important as well, because they're going to be the person that you're seeing a lot right after that baby's born. Lastly, and this is something that your pediatrician will be talking with you about, don't freak out when and if the baby loses weight at the beginning, like right after they're born. This is fairly normal, and you can bring that weight back up with the boobies. It's possible. You can do it. But make sure that you have a pediatrician who's on board with you as far as nursing. That's when the lactation consultant comes in handy, because you're thinking, okay, they lost this many ounces. What do I do? Have the pediatrician who supports breastfeeding, the lactation consultant who's working with you to help you understand that, how much milk you're putting in and how much they're taking in per feed. These are important tools to have, because this can be huge in the grand scheme of things when it comes right down to it and you're thinking, am I able to provide enough for my baby? These things can be really, really big. I have a story that I want to share about my personal breastfeeding journey, but before I forget, I would love to encourage you to share this. If you have someone in your life who is pregnant and getting ready to have a baby, or if you're pregnant, I would really appreciate it if you would share this video if you find it helpful. Now, my story that I want to share with you, one of the things that I did is I played a little bit of a game with myself. It was a little bit of a trick, but I told myself in the very beginning, even before I had my first daughter, that I was going to breastfeed for the first 30 days, even if it was horrible, that I was going to do it for 30 days no matter what. And I did. And I'm glad that I set that goal for myself, because in the early weeks there were times when I definitely wanted to give up, because there was pain. It hurt. It wasn't as easy as I thought it should be. I mean, God gave us these, like, why do we have nipples? But if it's going to be so hard. But my takeaway from that was, number one, I committed to a goal of 30 days. At the end of that 30 days, I had addressed a lot of the issues that would have been why I gave up. So her latch was not great. She tucked her bottom lip under, and that hurt a lot. That was probably the biggest issue. And number two, just having a nursling, just having something suckling on you you have to get used to that, and the demands and all that. But through it all, with this goal of 30 days, a lot of those issues had remedied themselves. I had talked to a lactation consultant. I had figured out enough to give me the momentum to go for another 30 days. And that was what I did. I'm going to do it for another month. I'm going to do it for another month. And eventually it got to the point where it was like, why would I ever give this up? This is amazing. Or why would I stop? We're 4 months in now, or we're 6 months in now. And at 6 months, at that point, your supply has kind of regulated and the latch issues are usually taken care of, and you've just got a sweet little relationship. But that goal of 30 days helped me get on to, a further relationship. If you liked the video, I would love it if you would click like, and as I mentioned, share if you feel like it's helpful. That would be amazing. I'd also like to invite you to be a subscriber. If you're a subscriber, that will give you an email when we publish a new video, which we do every week, and we'd love to have you join along with us. We also have a Facebook page and a blog, so if you'd like to check us out in those areas, go right ahead. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great week, and we hope to see you again next week.